Hey everyone, thanks for joining me here today on Makers of the Metaverse, where we take a closer look at the final frontier of the digital revolution. I'm your host, Jason Cassidy. The Metaverse is all about building cool things that people from all walks of life want to take part in, be it a rock concert, live streaming a sporting event into a stadium, or hitting Main Street for a day of virtual shopping. These are all different parts of the digital economy within the Metaverse. But what's powering that economy? It's a question that's not asked nearly enough and thus worth addressing. All these activities have some type of commerce behind them. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. What's powering these growing Metaverse economies? So plug in, because this incredible journey officially begins now.
I travel down the road. You can travel for 1,000,000 miles, redesigning everything in a digital style. Such a beautiful creation, can't believe I got to see it first. Coming round to meet you on the far side of the Metaverse. Got my hand upon the wheel, I'm a maker of the Metaverse.
In the Metaverse, it's all about what you can build, at least this early on into the phenomenon. Let's say you're Christopher Columbus and you've just discovered the New World. Well, beyond the fact that Columbus wasn't actually the first to discover North America, imagine his surprise when he landed on the East Coast of the United States all those years ago. The opportunities back then were literally endless, and it took a long time to build things up to where they are today in the physical world. Well, that's the exact same dynamic taking place right now in the Metaverse. And of course, it's the virtual land that most people naturally gravitate towards. However, focusing exclusively on the land may be a little bit short-sighted here. Let me explain. The Metaverse will be successful if enough entrepreneurs come in and build useful businesses and engaging attractions that foster an environment to draw in millions of people from every nation on the planet. This will drive commerce to the roof, and in time, a non-trivial amount of daily economic activity will start taking place within these virtual metropolises. But for that to happen, an economy must first have a medium of exchange to facilitate all this action. And this is where Metaverse tokens come into play. Every blockchain-based metaverse today has its own native token which powers the economy forming within its virtual borders. If you plan on spending any amount of time within one of those metaverses, then you're going to eventually find yourself in need of some of its token. Whether that's buying some wearables to showcase on your avatar, paying for a conference ticket, or purchasing some virtual real estate, it's that metaverse's native token that you'll eventually need to make those transactions happen. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the most popular Metaverse tokens and what each one of them brings to the table. Many of the top Metaverses currently exist on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's pretty easy to see why. Companies choose to build on Ethereum due to the thriving Web3 ecosystem that exists there, bringing in droves of developers and consumers along with them. The ERC20 token standard has really helped propel the Ethereum blockchain to be number 2 in the world behind only Bitcoin at the time of this recording. One good example of this is the Sandbox, which has a Minecraft or even Roblox look and feel to it. It's a widely popular virtual world that has easy to use custom tools that will allow you to build just about whatever experience you can imagine. Once you get into the Sandbox metaverse, it's reasonable to expect that you're eventually going to find something you want to take part in that's going to require a little bit of coinage. And in the Sandbox metaverse, its native token is called Sand. Sand is one of the best performing tokens within the metaverse genre, and really, the metaverse has become one of the hottest sectors within crypto. Metaverse tokens have become so popular, in fact, that now serious blockchain investors now have a dedicated strategy to make sure they've got some exposure to this area within their portfolio. The Sandbox runs lots of competitions and offers various ways for you to get your hands on some sand initially. So if you're interested in what this metaverse has to offer, then I highly encourage you to check them out because they've always got something fun going on. Beyond needing some sand to take part in the very best that the Sandbox has to offer, there is the investment side of things here too. Not everyone out there wants to become a metaverse real estate mogul, nor do they plan on spending countless hours within these virtual playgrounds. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be seriously looking at metaverse tokens though, because you really should. This is one of several growth sectors within cryptocurrency, But unlike all the others, this one has the ability to quite literally suck everything else into its orbit one day in the future. To help emphasize the upside here, in late 2020, you could buy as much of the Sand token as you could handle at around 3 cents USD each. Just 1 year later, on November 25th, 2021, the Sand token hit an all-time high of $8.44 US. Yeah, that is instant retirement if you bought even a modest amount of Sand back in 2020. To clarify even more here, if you had invested just $10,000 US into the Sand token at 3 cents each, you'd have around 333,000 Sand tokens. And if you were to keep all those tokens and sold them at the high of $8.44 US, you would have over $2.8 million in profit. If you're curious about whether there was a token sale for Sand, well, there was. It took place on August 14th, 2020, and the ICO, or initial coin price, of the Sand token was just 1/8 of a US penny. It's fair to say that ICO investors of the Sand token did astronomically well, and it boggles the mind of how big of a return they made in such a short amount of time. But, if you can believe it, the Sandbox and the Sand token are not an outlier here. Far from it. Other Metaverse tokens followed this same path to prominence and were incredibly lucrative investments for those few savvy investors who weren't afraid of their own shadow and made the right decision. Decentraland's Mana token had a similar trajectory, hitting an all-time high of $5.90 US on November 25th, 2021. And November 25th was the top for Metaverse tokens, if you haven't noticed yet. The token traded well under 10 cents US for several years until the crazy bull market of 2021 hit and everything went supernova. Just like the Sandbox, Decentraland also conducted an ICO for its Mana token, which took place on August 16th, 2017. And the price? Just 2.4 cents US each. Yeah. Decentraland and the Sandbox are by far the two best known blockchain-based metaverses out there today. But they're not the only ones with their own token that has some intrigue and some serious upside potential. Somnium Space, built on Ethereum, has its own unique look and feel, and it's been VR or virtual reality capable for a long time now. It also happens to have one of the most passionate and knowledgeable founders I've ever seen in Artur Saikov. This virtual world differs from many others in that it has its own landscape waiting for you to explore, including lakes and mountains. Buying real estate in Somnium Space brings a whole new meaning to the term waterfront. And as you probably could have guessed by now, it has its own native token called Cubes. This metaverse really is quite the immersive experience, so you could very well find yourself wanting to spend some serious time and money in here. And if that were to happen, then having some cubes in your wallet may prove to be a prudent investment. And then of course we've got Bloktopia, who decided to go in a completely different direction with their metaverse. It all takes place within one massive skyscraper that contains 21 floors. And the 21 floors is an ode to Bitcoin and its 21 million coin hard cap. Built using the Unity engine, each floor of the Bloktopia metaverse has its own theme and purpose, and it's got some pretty big partners and endorsements behind it too. Their currency is called BLOK, and you're able to put your BLOK to work in various ways to earn income if you're not quite ready to start spending them yet. BLOK is yet another metaverse token that investors are eager to get their hands on and fans are looking to get a healthy stash of so they can take part in the Bloktopia metaverse. Yuga Labs, the group behind the now iconic BAYC or Bored Ape Yacht Club, are building their own metaverse called Otherside. There's a lot to unpackage here with such an ambitious undertaking. However, it is worth noting that the ape token will be used as a currency within Otherside to make purchases of all kinds. Since the ape token has been around for a while now, this is a smart move by Yuga Labs to give future utility to the token as it becomes the currency of choice for all Othersiders. If you're more into the Web3 gaming space, then a nice compromise could be Star Atlas, which is a space exploration game that feels a lot like a metaverse in many ways. Its native token is called Atlas and is built on the Solana network. Unlike some of the other metaverse tokens we've looked at, Star Atlas and their token launched at the height of the 2021 bull market, and thus saw a deep retracement in price over the past few years. However, this can be construed as good news for you watching right now if you're interested in getting involved and want to grab a bag of Atlas tokens on the cheap. The metaverse token craze is going so strong right now that even Bitcoin is getting involved. If you aren't familiar with ordinals, then the quickest way I can sum it up for you is that Bitcoin is now supporting NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, and that support has come in the form of the ordinals protocol. To be fair, the ability to create NFTs on Bitcoin has existed for a long time now, but with the advent of ordinals, there is now a thriving user base and a functional economy built around the concept. This has led to the emergence of several innovations, including Bitmap, which is a metaverse-based project. With Bitmap, each block on the Bitcoin blockchain has its own NFT to represent it, and all the transactions that are included in that historical block play a role in its attributes and thus its value. This is yet another rabbit hole we could go down and probably never come back up from. However, for the sake of brevity, Bitmap has its own token called BMP, and it's part of the BRC20 family. BRC20 is a token standard on Bitcoin in the same vein that ERC20 is a de facto fungible token standard on Ethereum. While Bitmap and its token are relatively new entrants into the space, it's fair to assume that future applications that are built to bolster the Bitmap metaverse will make use of the Bitmap token. And what this means is that if you are bullish on Bitcoin and NFTs, then you may want to grab yourself some of the BMP token. This concept of metaverses having their own native token goes back a long, long ways. So really, the blockchain-based metaverses of today are just picking up where the earliest leaders of the movement have left off. Second Life, launched in 2003, is what many people consider to be the first true metaverse. And while it didn't have the power of blockchain backing it, it did pioneer a metric ton of concepts that have since been adopted by newer virtual worlds looking to replicate its success. Built by Linden Labs, Second Life has its own native in-world currency called Linden Dollars. This isn't a minor detail here because Second Life became so popular that its economy eventually went crazy. And so too thus did the demand for Linden Dollars. What's even more interesting is that Second Life is still going strong to this very day, like right now. So it's quite literally a living artifact in the sense that it helped put the idea of a virtual world with a real economy built around it on the map for a lot of people out there. I think you're starting to see that metaverse tokens are a pretty integral part of the overall metaverse scene. There is one more important thing I want to share with you, and it's an aspect of how the early days of the metaverse token landscape is playing out in front of us. It's the virtual land in the form of NFTs that are really giving these metaverses their long-term value. After all, if you don't have anything to build upon, then you really don't have anything to showcase. But despite this fact, paradoxically, it's actually the metaverse tokens that brought investors bigger returns during the great bull market of 2021. Don't get me wrong here. Virtual land investors did incredibly well. And with land, you always have an asset that you can potentially cash flow with a business or services running on top of it. All that said, because NFTs are so new and so few exchanges exist for them, the liquidity required to form a massive market just isn't there yet. Conversely, on the fungible side, metaverse tokens benefited from joining an industry that already had a decade of innovation and investment pouring into it. Whether it was wallet support, exchanges, or just liquidity, fungible tokens did better on average than their NFT counterparts. So if you're looking at metaverse tokens from more of an investment perspective than a utility-driven one, you could do a lot worse than diversifying your portfolio to include both virtual land and its metaverse token. And with that bit of wisdom shared, we've now officially come to the end of our journey together. I hope you've learned some valuable information about not just the utility of these tokens, but also the investment potential that they hold. And finally, always conduct your own research before buying a crypto asset, fungible or non-fungible. While the information you learned here today will give you a head start once you embark upon your own metaverse adventures, never buy an asset just because someone else tells you to do it. Always think for yourself and make decisions based upon solid data, not emotions.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to check the next installment in this series as we explore this new world like no one has ever done before. Until next time, have fun, enjoy life, and I'll see you on the far side of the metaverse.